Okay, so it is
Payday.
It is payday. It is payday for CONY's Yield Max. This is the second installment for the CONY experiment.
Not good.
It is not good. So we're going to walk you through that here in a second. So here you'll see in the Schwab.
See the difference between the month-to-month payments.
Our first month we got $1173.05, and this month we only got $730.50.
If you see, what happened was it was the lowest payment like
they have literally ever had.
Ever. Like it was unforeseen, but like that's part of the
part of life.
Part of the experience with the variable distribution. That's why we've mentioned before, like if you're living on a fixed income, it's very difficult to basically predict like what variable interest payments will be or dividend payments will be. So this is a prime example. Now, like granted, most of them aren't this drastic, where it's like either between $2.10 and now 83 cents. That's a vast spread.
That's a huge spread. Huge spread. Because we said that the average for everything that we've paid out since we've held CONY was like $3.75, I think, is what we calculated for our
like $1.38, yeah.
Handy dandy chart ski.
So what this is saying is that there's going to be some biggins down the road. Remember Al Bundy? Biggins. If you don't remember, people my age will. Married with Children, his favorite porn was he had a magazine called Biggins.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that's hilarious. All right, so I have to put in the order in Schwab to get it moved over to my member's first account to actually get the loan paid off. So what I did for right now is I just entered in the
Biggins
$730. I mean, the cool part is we still have the second payment in, or the second the dividend in before the first payment is actually due on this credit line that I took out. The interest will be different based on that, and I will do an updated segment right after this once that comes through to see what the calculations spin out to be. And I updated the number for the actual like loan balance. It was very, very close. So I'm getting a lot better with doing this calculation now that I understand that this interest is calculated by the day. I had this originally at 183.64, but it actually came in with the calculation at 182.49. And now back to Tim and I babbling. Having that number as low as it was definitely affects like the payback for this, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And that's why this is kind of risky.
The premise of the experiment was taking out a loan, paying the loan back, and then having a butt ton of shares left over to then accumulate monthly payments with. So
yeah, the whole point of this is to basically use OPM, other people's money, to buy shares of high dividend paying stocks, and then using the proceeds to basically pay off the asset, the acquisition that you use the loan. So you're really not out a ton of money. So this is a way to basically get free shares on very little amount of money and interest, as opposed to paying the amount of money yourself and working the hours yourself to come up with the cash. So this is kind of a cool concept.
That's what the experiment's about. So like it's obviously some months are going to be better than other months, but overall the experiment is moving along swimmingly.
I mean, it could be a little swimmingly better. And then I made a chart here because you literally would be shitting your pants if you were buying a typical stock and seeing the value of this thing go down. So since we bought this, the stock price of CONY has gone down 27.3%. And I just did a chart here of how much we actually have been down from day to day since we bought into this thing. So we were at pretty much break even up on that like third day there. You can see it hit back at the 0 mark. Once this thing finally starts going into the positive and up past where we actually bought it, it'll be on the other side of that 0 datum line for profit versus loss. But as of right now, it's been nothing but loss when it comes to a value perspective. We're down $4,099.
$4,099, and we've only paid back like $1,900, and so even if you do like the total return, it's still $3,000.
So a typical approach for somebody would be that they buy something, they see this value go down, they panic sell, and they lock in that loss, and then they're out money. So I think this is how people are losing money with Yield Max.
Well, there's two ways. First is the volatility causes them to panic sell. The second is they're reinvesting the dividend. So like if you see here, it would reinvest, and you'd have more shares, so you'd be losing more money. Like
your money would go down.
If we actually reinvested like the 1,100 into that, we would have so many more shares that it's gone down so much that it would have actually compounded the losses a lot more. So like that's why I don't recommend dripping these until you've paid back your original whatever you paid for it, whether it's a loan, whether it's cash, whatever. with volatile things, one of the ways that you actually lock in losses, like subconsciously, is by the drip. Like if it's going down and you're reinvesting at a lower price and getting more shares, and it keeps going down, so then you're actually compounding your losses because you're getting more shares at a lower price, but then it's going down, so it just keeps going down. That's why I don't recommend doing the drip in this until you've got back your
initial investment.
Especially
if you have the loan thing riding on this. But so what's so interesting about this is, so you'll see that this is down a little bit more than the 4,000 mark because this is, active day during the 10th, which is when we are looking at this. That price that was in the chart before was like numbers that came in on the close of the 9th. So
9th was closed.
Or excuse me, the 9th, since whatever, the 8th was closed.
9th was closed, 8th was open.
Okay, I said that backwards twice.
Get your shit together.
So, but what is interesting in this, again, most people would be panicking, they'd be freaking out. I was like so excited that this thing went down in value so much because we had talked about doing not just the lending experiment, but also doing something with the example of somebody who has money saved aside and say they're going to go do van life for 6 months and they save up for 6 months. Instead of putting the money straight towards the expenses, you would actually put it into the yield max strategy and then just use the payouts from the yield max to live off of instead of that amount. You'd obviously have to have a buffer because things like this happen, which is exactly what, unexpected. It was a lower payout than expected by a lot. So you can't count on that per se. That's why that extra buffer is nice. Now, I use that exact same concept and I kind of up the ante a little bit. I decided to buy a course, and instead of buying the course outright, what I did was I actually put it on a credit card that I just so happened to have 0 APR on for the introductory period, which is another interesting way to do this whole thing. So instead of buying the course outright with the cash that I have, I'm just using it to make payments on my credit card. And now I took the cash and I moved it into the yield max experiment, or not the yield max experiment. I opened
another experimental thing,
because that's what we do here apparently. And I actually did 2, so this number is going to be off because I also had $3,000 sitting around for whatever. So this is like a combination of $3,000 and $2,000, $2,400 is what I did. So I'm basically taking the payouts from this to refund that money plus pay that credit card off. And then as long as I have that 0% APR, I don't even have to worry about interest, which is really freaking juicy. I didn't even realize that was a thing until I thought about it. So I'm going to actually probably do a post about credit card usage and this yield max strategy because it's like you could put your purchases on it at 0% interest to get free yield max shares if you do have a bigger purchase coming up. So you could strategically do it and then get cash back.
Like, so long as you plan it so that the dates don't overlap, where you get the dividend back so you can pay off the credit card before it.
Well, I have the extra cash, so the $200 payment that it would be isn't a big deal for me. So
I'm just saying that would be like so
definitely something to think about
because then you'd have interest.
So as of right now, I would like to ask Tim what the theory is with this whole, why is the payment so low?
Well, Bitcoin, if you recall, Bitcoin capped out at 108,000, then it basically just shot straight the hell down to like 92. And then there is a lot of manipulation going on in the crypto realm right now. I think there's people trying to scare people into selling their Bitcoin so they can gobble the Bitcoin up because they know it's not going to be this cheap for a few years. So there is some manipulation going on in that regard. If you turn into any of the media, they're saying, oh, Bitcoin, is it ever going to be above 100,000 again? So they're trying to scare people into selling their Bitcoin.
Panic selling their Bitcoin.
Well, they're still getting a profit, but they're trying to minimize the profit so that they can scoop up the...
But it's kind of like our Rocket Labs thing. We got a 72% gain in it, but then we missed a 700% gain after that by getting out too early. It's the same concept.
Really?
What?
Going to go there?
Oh, is it too soon? Too soon? Scratch that.
Delete that.
But it's the same concept.
That's what I think's going on with crypto right now. Even if it's just slight manipulation, we do know that Bitcoin, and by virtue of Bitcoin, all the altcoins should have a really, really good 2025. So,
but CONY's, I think, a special one because CONY is based on Coinbase, and Coinbase is kind of based on what Bitcoin's doing.
Well, there was some profit taken in Coinbase. Because Coinbase literally just shot straight up from like the 3rd of November up through
because of
December.
Trump's
so people are
winning the election.
So there is the taking profits, but then Coinbase isn't really that great of a stock. Like, I mean, if we're being honest, it's not really that great. Like, it's nothing that I would hold, but like I have no problem holding CONY because it's based on the volatility of Coinbase. Mm-hmm. That's why the 83 cents is so weird because Coinbase has been super volatile. So like that's something that we have to monitor going forward because if that 83 cents becomes like, if they keep paying around that and it becomes the new norm, then that's not good.
That's a red flag. That is a red
They
flag.
did that with a couple of the other ones, like ULTY was one of the UMAXs I got into in the van life portfolio, and like back in the day, it was paying like $1, between like $1.09 and $1.70, and now it's paying like 60 cents. Like it's gradually the dividends got lower, lower, and lower and lower as the share prices got lower. So that kind of makes sense. But when the share price goes up and the dividend's still trajecting lower, that's very bad. So I'm almost think I have to get out of ULTY at some point and put it in something else.
Well, I thought we had that discussion, but the thing with CONY, it has been straight down. You saw it in that thing that I just popped up, like just freaking, well, maybe not straight down, zigzaggy down. That's not a ton of volatility though. So if you look at it from the perspective of options,
if you look at it from that column there, that's pretty big leaps for a $20 stock. Like if you see or a $15 stock, like that price that has going on there. Like you should actually.
Yeah, but I'm saying it doesn't have a lot of up and down. It's kind of like sideways down, sideways down, sideways, slight up, down.
If you really wanted to gather the volatility of this, you should make a call, like 2 more columns with the intraday high and intraday low. So you can see like the apps, because this has been really volatile.
Oh, okay. So this is just a snapshot of the
That's just the closing cost. Like if you want to see how volatile something is, if you have a column that has the closing cost, you should include the intraday high and intraday low, because then you can see the spread of what the stock did during the day.
Oh, right here. High and low. 12.11, 12.24. That one's a whole $1 difference.
So that's pretty big. $1 difference on $12 is like, what is that? 8 or 9%?
That's a lot.
So it's been really volatile intraday. So that's why I'm confused why the payout was so low. I'm sure they'll.
Well, see, I don't have anything to compare that to, but if you're saying that is still volatile, so that's what red flags it a little bit for me. But if it's volatilizing down as opposed to up, CONY is the long position and fiat is the short position. Mm-hmm. So I asked him to compare this to like what that was showing, and I think they had a lower than normal payout too, which again doesn't make sense to me. That kind of red flags the whole thing.
Well, I was looking for most of the yield maxes that we're in. Most of them had a relatively small payout, so it might just be a January thing. I don't know. Or a New Year thing, or like,
maybe they use the money to actually do something.
There might be something going on. So I guess something that we have to monitor in like multiple fronts, because we have 7 of these.
I wonder actually if it's more like ETF administration, like government regulation nonsense, because that's very possible. I was looking
too. If you pull up the Coinbase one that shows like January of last year,
269.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But then like look at February.
$1.75. So maybe it was just like and the one before it from March or from November, $1.06.
So that was So
there were 2 big ones in between those 2 small ones.
So if you scroll up here, that was a pretty good one, and that was a decent one. But that's really shit. That's just shit.
So I'm really hoping for our sake, for this experiment and the payouts and everything, because I want to make a big freaking payoff on this loan. And we were scrambling to get our money into that other one that we decided to do. And I was like, what the hell? And we could have got it if the money would have been cleared. Remember how I said that I was really surprised that they let the money release right away? Well, when I just moved it from Wells Fargo as opposed to the local Members First Federal Credit Union, which is usually the one that sucks butt, Wells Fargo took... It was almost a week because we had the holidays in there plus the weekends. It was just the way that everything hit, and it was absolutely retarded. If I could have bought it when I wanted to buy it, we would have literally got into CONY with $13 price point, but we ended up getting into it with what did I get? $13.83 is what we ended up buying it for.
So that was 83-cent difference. But like these ones here, it's very difficult to get in at the bottom trough of these. So you basically just have to trust the process that the dividends are going to cover the price depreciation.
But if you can get it lower, but again, we were in that thing where you had to be in by the ex-dividend record date thing to be able to get this payout that just happened. So I was like, the payout is more necessary because I have part of this on credit card, and so that's what we decided. Otherwise, we would have waited for an even bigger downpool, which is exactly what happened. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So we will see you guys back in a month. Hopefully this thing turns around and we have a nice juicy, hopefully $2 per share would be really, really cool. But we'll see. I have a feeling that crypto is going to shoot back up again once Trump's inauguration. Like, I think it's going to pop off again. People are going to be like, woo, back on the Trump reminder.
Something.
I imagine so.
Crypto, I'm not worried about.
Yeah, not worried about it.
Yeah.
Again, unless it's like a major pattern that forms in the next few months. So we'll see what happens. So see you guys.